What is up, YouTube? What's going on, guys? So what we're going to be doing today and showing you guys, for the customers who purchased our 59 to 64 Impala Wishbone, we got a 62 here. And what we're going to be doing is going to showing you kind of step by step on how we do it, not necessarily how you have to do it, just because depending on your trailing arms here, if they're extended, the mounting points might be slightly different, and especially if you have frame reinforcing, it is going to change the position of the mounting. But I'm going to give you guys a slight idea on how we do it, and certain little techniques we use. That way it makes it a lot easier for you guys. Alright, so as you can see, we went ahead and pulled the rear end out already. The rear end's all gone. I left the trailing arms hanging here because they're not going to be in our way for this, for what we're doing here. This is the factory banana bar bracket, the cross frame right here. So you see this section's welded here on top. This is all welded all the way down here. Emergency brake line cables are normally mounted here. And this is the stock banana bar. So with the Wishbone is going to eliminate the banana bar, it's going to eliminate the panhard bar, and it's going to keep your rear end centered and allow for higher articulation on bigger cylinders. So what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and get this all cut out, and I will be using a plasma to cut this out. One thing you do got to be careful of, this is the gas line right here. So this is gas line, brake line. So what we do is, of course, get our bottle of water ready, just in case, because there's a lot of grease undercoating and just nasty grime built up from the years. And you can see I shove a piece of sheet metal in here just to protect it from any type of sparks or heat. So we have that in there just to kind of an extra precaution. So we'll go ahead and cut that out for you, and I'll go ahead and get a video for you guys. So with the plasma, you can see it's still smoking right now, it's still hot. We went ahead and cut the 3 seams for the factory welder rest. So this is the first seam. The second seam is in between the banana bar bracket, and the third one is up on top. The one on top and this one right here is going to be the most crucial one. You got to be very careful because the gas line is back there. A lot of guys will choose to do this with air saw or a sawzall. Definitely would recommend that if you're doing it by yourself. In this case, I do have someone here on fire watch, and that way we are safe while doing it. I'll go ahead and do a video, and we'll go ahead and cut this side for you guys. That way you see the process of what we did on this side. Alright, so this is where the factory bracket was at. As you can see, it's all cut out now. And what I was talking about the gas line is the gas line is right there, that thick tubing. So that's what you want to be very careful of. And that is the whole section that will come out. So this is the factory banana bar that we just cut out. And now the rest of the part is just cleanup. So we're going to come in and we'll get a flat disc and we'll clean all this up. Mold it to where you can't even tell that we took it off. We'll do the same for this side. Then from there, we're going to come in and clean this whole frame all the way back to pretty much the e-brake cables, and get it prepped, ready for welding for our brackets for the Wishbone. I'm also going to do a little run through of how I break down this. So we got a lot of build up here. It's probably a little over a 1/4 inch of material that we got to take off. So instead of spending 2-3 hours sitting here with just a flat disc, what we do is we'll actually break it down with a harder stone first. That way we don't, that way it's faster, but we won't touch the frame with this. So we'll break it down till there's about an 1/8 inch or 1/16 inch left. Then we'll come in with, this one is a 80 grit, but normally I prefer a 40, but I'm actually out of the 40s right now. But we'll break it down with a 40 grit flap. Then after we've broken down all the way to the frame on the section that I'm trying to take off, I'll come in and clean the frame with this. And this looks like it's used, but it's actually brand new. This is the type of material, it actually works real great for taking off just like tar or just junk that's on the frame. And of course, this car being so old, it has a lot of that. So we're gonna go ahead and break it down. Step one, step two, and step three for a final cleanup. All right, so if you guys can see, we got it down to bare metal. We got it all cleaned up. We went ahead and cleaned up all the way up to here. And the reason we do that is because we use this to mark on. We do a lot of measuring, and we mark it with a Sharpie. That way you have a clean surface to go off of. And that way I could actually use these as my guides and measure everything out properly. That way it gets in there square, and your rear end is in square in your vehicle when you get it all installed. So as you can see, we cleaned pretty far, more than what is really needed, but that's just the best way to do it. So you can see we're down to real good bare metal. So now that the frame's all cleaned up, we got the rear end back up here. And as you notice, I got it on 2 stands right here. And then I also got a strap coming from this side of the rear end going towards the frame up here. And the reason we did that is the rear end's naturally shifted that way. So what we're doing is we're bringing it back center, and then we're gonna come in and do a few measurements from here to here, from here to here, and we got a few other points that we measure from, and we're gonna make sure it's all squared up. See, this is a step that a lot of people mess up, and they don't put the strap here, and they just let the rear end hang freely. And if you let it hang freely, the rear end's naturally gonna go normally this way, because the panhard bracket originally normally kind of tweaks these brackets on the frame just a hair, enough for the rear end to shift. So with this strap going across, we're bringing it back to center, and what we're doing is we're getting the wishbone all mocked up. I just gotta toss in the spacers real quick right here, and we're gonna kind of get all these bolts tightened up. We'll get this hooked to the rear end, and then I'm gonna get this mocked up, correct the pinion angle, and I'll show you guys as I get this all pieced in what it looks like. But for right now, I'm gonna get a few more measurements. And actually, let me find my measuring tape real quick. What do I do with it? Oh, here it is. So this is the measurement that's kind of iffy, because you just don't know how much work has been done to this fender. And you know, normally the body and the body mounts are most of the time shot if it's not a frame off. And this one isn't a frame off, and it hasn't been replaced recently, so we're just kind of getting a rough measurement on this one just to kind of eyeball where we're at. So this one is right around 7 inches, touching the top inside lip. And then we're going to do the same thing and measure the other side, and we're going to get the measurement. Then what I like to do is I like to get a measurement from the stationary section on the rear end. Because this measurement out here is good, but the only thing you got to worry about is you got to worry about this. With this play on here, that could throw your measurement off. So a lot of times, you know, I'll get that as a rough to get us close. Then I'll come in and actually measure from the tape measures in the way. I'll measure from here to the frame. And what we do is we push the rear end up as high as we can get it to go. That way we could get a clear measurement from here to the frame, and then we'll diagonal it as well. So those are a whole bunch of points that you want to hit when you're measuring. That way you can ensure that the rear end's going straight. You're not dog tracking down the street, or when you're driving, you know, just down the road. So we're gonna get a few more measurements in, and then I'll show you guys the next step. All right, so you guys can see we just got these bushings in place. We also did just get these all tightened up on here. So you can see these allow for a lot of movement, which obviously these are gonna be welded to the frame, so it's not gonna have the movement. But in return, the movement's going to come from here, and it allows for great pivot up and down. The reason we do the double-sided bracket like this is just way sturdier, just way sturdier. We don't want to have any issues with these brackets ever breaking off. So what we did is we just mimicked having like a stock frame bracket. You know, you never see a trailing arm mounted with one bolt. You know, one bolt and, you know, nothing on the other side of the bracket. It's always going to be bracket, trailing arm piece goes inside with a bolt through it. And you know, that's strong enough for factory, it's strong enough for what we're doing in this case, because you know, we beef these brackets up. These are 3/16 brackets here. so they are strong and sturdy. And this is going to be the way you want to set this up. We give you 2 sets of spacers. You're going to have a bigger spacer. The bigger spacer is going to be towards the inside, and the smaller spacer is going to be towards the outside. And this can change depending on how much frame reinforcement you have. But one thing you do want to always check, make sure your bolt is going in, and main head here, and nut towards the frame side. If you do it the opposite way, what's going to happen is if you tack it and weld it all up, you'll never be able to get the bolt out. So make sure that the bolt always goes in. That way, if any time down in the future you have to do any type of replacement, remove your suspension, that kind of stuff, that it's going to be real easy for you to do by sliding these out. Now, a lot of people have issues getting these in. These are meant to be very, very tight fit. And we do that way there's no slop in the suspension. So the way I do it normally is I normally flip this upside down. I'll flip this guy upside down here, and I start with this one. I get this main spacer in, get the heim joint in, and there's gonna be a small gap over here. What I do is I just get a wrench and I just put it like this, and I just get a hammer. I start tapping it down real softly, and it'll slide right into place to where the bolt will slide in. And the reason I do it this way is because when you push down and you're hitting it against the floor on your workbench, it's going to have pressure on a downward force, and it's going to be easier for your second piece of bracket to go in, or a spacer to go in. So you're going to repeat that for both sides, and we'll flip this guy back over. There we go. So now that it's pretty much fully assembled, minus the main bolt going across here, you do want to tighten these all up. That way you don't get a false reading on your measurement. So that's already done. We got the rear end centered up and squared. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get this wishbone mounted up by this main bolt. So we're going to get this main bolt going across in there on top of the rear end, and then we're going to get another stand to hold the wishbone up in place as we check the degree, the pinion degree and the pitch of the wishbone. Alright, so I got everything adjusted, and I got it as close as I can right now. You gotta remember, when I'm doing this, I'm normally doing this by myself. So what I do is I've learned a little trick, just using a stand with a piece of wood, and I put it right at the edge of the wishbone. And I use that to pretty much be my second set of hands to hold it up and to get a line up. So most of the times, your bracket, depending on how much reinforcing you have, is gonna line up right around the e-brake cable. So e-brake cable bracket, I should say. So I use this a lot of times as a reference. Now, don't go off of that 100%, because even from factory allows for so much movement per weld and per piece. So I normally will use this. I'll come into the tunnel over here, and I'll measure from the tunnel to the edge of the bracket, tunnel to the edge of the other side of the bracket. I'll measure from this hole here, up, down, and I'll get a whole bunch of measurements. So this is just a rough of where I'm going to put it, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side as well. It's kind of hard because I'm doing it upside down, so hopefully you guys can see how you guys understand. I am up on a lift doing this. Most of the time when I'm doing this, I'm doing it on the ground. And sometimes I actually prefer doing it on the ground because I could use a jack, and a jack's actually a lot easier to kind of maneuver, get it in place and stuff like that. So let me see where I'm at pinion-wise right now. Try to get a pinion angle over here. So if you guys could see, hold on, this guy's trying to get this thing adjusted real quick. One second. Okay, so right now my pinion's reading a 5.6. So what I'm going to do is it has to, you can see the arrow's telling me to go up there. So I'm going to try to get that guy correct a little bit more. But what I did is I moved my heims just a hair out. If it focuses, it's about 4 threads out, 5 threads out. And then the top, the main heim, the main bushing up here has also been moved a little bit. And I do that and I put them in the middle. That way you have adjustment both ways if you need it, to go positive or negative. And as you can see right now, I'm at a negative 5.6. To bring it up, I gotta bring it back up. Now you could get, this is a fancier version, but you can get, I got another one here. You could get one of these And if you can see it, it'll tell you where your zero's at. Let me see. You know, like I'm lined up on 0 right there. So that's level. As long as you're within like 3 degrees each way, positive, negative. Of course, that's a give and take measurement. Because depending on your reinforcement, how high your lockup is, so you want to get a happy medium to where the U-joints, when you put the driveline on, aren't going to bind. Now, I always take the drivelines off when I'm doing this because I've done so many of them where I know what this has to be at already. So as you can see, I'm a 5.6. I'll get this guy dialed into about 4 degrees off on purpose. That way when it locks up, it'll actually pitch it to the perfect. Yeah, I'll get that guy to like a 3 or 4. That way I get it leveled out perfectly. And I do that as a happy medium. That way when you're locked up, the pinion doesn't point too far down or too far up, and then that'll cause your U-joints to go out and also throw out your carrier bearing and possibly damage your transmission. So doing this and getting your pinion angle is pretty important. So this is one thing I always stress. We are going to be doing a stock driveline on this with a 6-inch slip, and that is already being made up right now. And that's going to be our next step after this. But all that, like I said, we've done so many of these where I already know what the measurement needs to be. So once I put it at a 4, and you can tell that's not a severe angle at all. And that's completely laid beyond where I'm actually going. This is only allowing for, you see the cylinder right there? That's only allowing for 7 inches, and my overall height right now is actually 8.5. So with the coil and cup. So again, use the e-brake cables as your guide. Don't rely off of them 100%. Still do your measurements. I still will come in and double check my measurement on from here to there, and then on opposite side, and then also from inside of the hub to the frame to make sure you're all squared up. And if you can't get that, you don't have an extra set of hands. And most people, even if you have an extra set of hands, most people can't hold it steady for as long as you need it. So use a ratchet strap, and that's what I do. I use a ratchet strap when I'm doing this because most of the time I'm doing this by myself, and I found little tricks and tips to make it easier. That way you're not stressing over it. So hopefully that helps you guys. I'm going to tack this up real quick. All right, so we got both of them tacked up here. I just did tacks on the bottom. That way I could check movement on them. I did do a tack up on the top side, which you can't really see. It's on the very top corner. But that way it's sturdy enough for us to get movement on it real quick. We'll check movement. I'll double check measurement again, because again, it's very important to constantly keep checking your measurements left and right to make sure your rear's centered up. So important little steps on this. Big spacer on the inside, small spacer on the outside. Main head of the nut coming in from the center of the driveline right here to the outside. That way you can see the clearance there. You could get this bolt and the nut out when you're replacing any type of suspension components or tearing down. That way you're not stuck with a wishbone in there. You have to cut off your heigms. So there you guys go. That's pretty much the most simplified view of it. Hopefully this helps you guys out. I'm going to do final weld on it, and I'm pretty much done here. The rear end bracket is already in place. I can barely see it. It's up there. But the rear end bracket is in place. We pre-welded that before the rear end went to chrome. And when you're doing that, you're just going to make sure that's centered up in between. So when you're going to do, you guys can see me in the reflection there. Let me scoot back a little bit more. All right. So when you're welding the main rear end bracket on the actual differential, you're going to not go center of the pumpkin. People make that mistake all the time. And they're going to measure from flat surface all the way to flat surface on this side. Get your dead center here, which is technically always going to be slightly offset of the differential, the main pumpkin or the third member. So don't look at it and think it looks funny. These pumpkins on Impalas are always slightly offset to the left, depending on your rear end now. So if you have, Curry or something like that, most of the time those do get centered up. It's just stock Impala ones are not. So make sure you get that measurement, do your line, get your bracket in place. But this is always a part that people struggle on, so I figured a video would be helpful. So here you guys go. If you guys don't already subscribe to the page, make sure you guys subscribe to the page. Give it a big thumbs up, share it. Hopefully this helps you guys. Again, we're here for helpful content, for useful content, and hopefully this video right here helps you. So thank you guys, appreciate it. Again, Alex from Hoppos. If you guys need any help, give us a call, 909-923-5553. Our website is www, which I shouldn't have to say that anymore, I think everyone knows, hopposonline.com. Both Instagrams are going to be Instagram at Alex, or Hoppos_Alex, and at Hoppos_Incorporated, INC, Inc. So Hoppos_Inc. and Hoppos_Alex. So thank you guys for watching. Subscribe, like, share, and you know what to do.